is your imagination.
Channel 4 News. Real life, real news.
Live, this is a Channel 4 News Storm Center alert, tracking Hurricane Andrew.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Teresa Rodriguez, and Hurricane Andrew is still intensifying this morning. A hurricane warning now. It became a warning at about 7:25 this morning. It was a watch. A warning is now in effect for South Florida, and that means you should be prepared. Now, we will be with you around the clock as we watch Hurricane Andrew. For the very latest, let's go to Dr. Bob Sheets, director of the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables.
Good morning. Hurricane Andrew continues on its relentless path towards South Florida. At this hour, hurricane warnings are in effect from the Vero Beach area southward through the Florida Keys, and a hurricane watch is on effect on the southwest coast of Florida up through the area just north of Tampa Bay. People in those areas should be prepared to take action at this time. I'm Bob Sheets from the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida.
Now, for more on the hurricane, let's go to our own Brian Allen, who is standing by in our Hurricane Center. Brian, good morning. You've been watching the hurricane all morning, and you have new coordinates for us, I believe.
That's right, Teresa. Let's go ahead and take a look at the coordinates first here. These are as of 8 o'clock this morning. Currently, the latitude 25.5 degrees north. So what that means is Andrew has been holding on a direct west line. Wind speed, or the movement, actually up a little bit, west at 16. The longitude now 74.1. Pressure still about where it was at 5 o'clock this morning, 28.08 inches, or else 951 millibars. Winds are still at 120 miles per hour, so that still makes it a Category 3 hurricane. Go ahead and get a reference point here. There's where we're looking at Andrew right there. There's Miami. The difference we're talking about this morning is only about 375 miles per hour. And the questions right now are what's going to happen to Andrew as Andrew starts to encounter a little bit of some warmer water as it moves into the Bahamas, possibility of some strengthening, and also the possibility of a little bit more of some forward speed there as Andrew gets into some warmer water and starts to intensify. Let's go ahead and take you to the loop now and show you what's going on with Andrew this morning. Still have a distinct eye as we take a look at the loop and give you an idea of what's going on. There is an eye wall in there. Can we go to the loop, please, and show you what's going on as far as Andrew goes and its relationship with Florida? Okay, we'll go ahead and take you on and give you a better outline of the warnings. All the red area here, that still includes the Bahamas under the hurricane warning. Now we are in it as well. From Vero Beach southward all the way into the Keys, there is a hurricane watch and tropical storm warning from Vero Beach up to Titusville. And then out here on the west coast, we haven't put the color in yet, but from Tampa Bay just to north of Flamingo, there is a hurricane watch in there for them as well. Now we'll take you to the satellite loop and show you what's going on as far as Andrew goes. Go back and you can watch this very distinct eye, right there, the bright red and especially the bright pink. That is where the heaviest convection or the highest thunderstorm tops are going on. You can see very well defined in there, and that bright white spot is the eye of Andrew. The feeder band's right in there, and you can see, starting to see a little bit of some influence into the Bahamas right there. For us, though, it's going to be into tonight before we start to feel some minimal effects from Andrew. Once again, let me give you the correlation here. We're talking 375 miles. As soon as the loop stops, right there, 375 miles difference between us and Andrew, continuing on that westerly course. Teresa?
Brian, one quick question. When it goes through the Bahamas, will it slow it down at all?
It really doesn't look like it right now, Teresa, simply because the Bahamas is nothing but a bunch of little islands. It's not a big landmass like Florida that would slow it down, cut off all the energy that it gets from the ocean. Maybe if we're looking in here with the warmer water, it's actually going to pick up some intensification as it moves through the Bahamas.
All right, Brian, and we will be checking in with Brian in just a few moments. But first, let's go to Channel 4's David Bloom, who is at the Broward Emergency Operations Center. David, good morning.
Well, Teresa, if you weren't with us here just a few minutes ago, just to bring people up to date, an evacuation, a mandatory evacuation, has been declared in Broward County. Let me give you the information one more time. From Palm Beach County line south to Atlantic, everything east of US 1 has to be evacuated. From Atlantic south to Sunrise, everything east of the Dixie Highway has to be evacuated. And then from Sunrise south to the Dade County line, that's everything east of I-95. Okay, we'll repeat those again at the end here, but that's a huge evacuation area. Jack Osterholt is the Broward County Administrator. Why such a large area? That was the first question that was put to us.
Well, we're seeing a storm that could be a Category 3 or 4, and we want to be very cautious to make sure that we don't have any of our folks get trapped in a situation where they don't need to be.
Now, what does this mean once you've declared now this evacuation? What happens now?
Well, we'll start running buses and getting people from where they are to the shelters where they need to be, and probably in a couple of 3 hours we'll close the bridges and try to get people to orderly leave the eastern parts of the county, and anybody in a mobile home park any place in the county, and into a shelter.
Okay, let's talk about the shelters for a sec. Those are sort of a last-ditch resort for people who don't have anywhere else to go, right?
Well, that's really not the case. We really want people who are in this area to feel that that's a safe place for them to go, they and their families to ride this out. So it's not like you can stay in your house or you can go to the shelter. We really want you to go to the shelters.
But do you have room in the shelters for
yes,
everyone?
We have plenty of room.
For if all 430,000?
We have a shelter plan that accommodates all those folks.
Okay, that's terrific. Now, what else is going to happen? Let's say I'm living in the east part of the county right now. I find myself, maybe I didn't think that I was going to be in an evacuation area based upon the maps that we were showing earlier. Now I am. What happens?
Well, you're going to, through people like you and other folks in the media, you're going to hear that it's time to go. We're going to be broadcasting with sirens and with voice-activated activities in the neighborhoods. And what we'd like you to do is pack up some belongings and get some stuff together, get your family, and in as an orderly and calmly way as possible, and leave the area.
Is it time to go now?
Well, between now and the next 3 or 4 hours, yeah.
Okay, Jack Osterholt, and we'll be back with you, of course, for more live. Now, I think we had a graphic earlier, and I'm not sure if you want me to show it now or not, that showed the shelters, the 36, now 37 shelters in Broward County. Let's see if we can roll that graphic. I'm not sure if we've got it up here. I'm trying to look at the monitor right now. Maybe we don't have that as of yet, but we'll come back to that and show you precisely where to go if you have to go to one of these evacuation shelters. Apparently, yeah, here we go. These are the Red Cross shelters, and if we can please try to grab a pen or pencil right now. There are 37 of these, so if you're in this area, we'll repeat this obviously over the next couple hours, but these are the sorts of places that you're going to want to go if you don't have any place else to go. Again, let me repeat, if you didn't have a pen to jot this down at the top of the hour, what the mandatory evacuation area is for Broward County as you watch where the shelters are in your neighborhood. Again, from the Palm Beach County line south to Atlantic, it's everything east of US 1. From Atlantic south to Sunrise, it's everything east of the Dixie Highway. And from Sunrise south to the Dade County line, it's everything east of I-95. Now, we're told that that's an area of about 500,000 people, 430,000 people. So, as Jack said, no need to panic. You don't have to get excited. But the bottom line is, you have to leave these areas. It's for your own sake. It's not because they're trying to be overly cautious. It's because they want to protect your life. Much more important than your property, than anything else, is to get out of the path of this storm and to get to somewhere safe. Now, even as we watch the end of these, Bob, I might toss it back to you just if there are any questions that come to mind.
It's Teresa, David. And yes, there is a question. What should folks be packing if they're preparing to go to these shelters?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What we would like to know is what should folks be packing, taking with them if they decide to seek refuge at one of these shelters?
Okay, I happen to have a list of things that Broward County has provided, so let me just kind of run through it, okay? What they're saying is if you're going to a shelter, you should bring a flashlight, a battery-operated radio, extra batteries, medicine and baby food, blankets or sleeping bag, identification and valuable papers, cards and books. And what you're looking at right now is people calling in here to this shelter to try to get just those sort of questions answered. Now, my colleague Hank Tester is live in Dade County at the emergency shelter there with the latest on what plans Dade County has for a possible evacuation. Hank?
David, thank you very much. In short, no evacuation yet, no meeting yet. And if we pan down over there, you're going to see that those gentlemen that are watching Channel 4 were certainly watching the Broward County information with great interest. So once again, here, no meeting and no evacuation yet. However, the shelters have opened. ABC evacuation level opened right around 8 o'clock this morning. Now, let me emphasize, that doesn't mean you need to rush over there right now. And also, D and X will open up at 10 o'clock this morning. So shelters in the Dade County area, some open supposedly right now. Again, difficult for us to tell because we're cooped up here. And 8 o'clock and then at 10 o'clock, evacuation level D and X will open
up. We'll have more information on that for you shortly. But again, no meeting yet. And once again, just a sidelight, I've been snooping around the building a bit, something I shouldn't be doing, but stumbled into the amateur radio section here of this particular building. Very interesting. They're gearing up, and they will tell us if, in fact, that's the way we need to communicate. If telephones go down, amateur radio will carry the day here in Dade County. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Hank, keep snooping. All right, we're going to go now to Ed Odell, who is standing by live via phone from Nassau in the Bahamas. Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Teresa. The weather here is beginning to deteriorate. Earlier this morning, there were some dark clouds, but they were quite broken, pouring in beginning about 5 o'clock this morning. And as the sun arose, it looked as though it was going to be a pretty decent day. But then, as you can see on the horizon, there's a thick cloud cover. The day is beginning to deteriorate, as I said. It looks like people here, especially here in the hotel that I'm staying in on the Cable Beach, the Wyndham Ambassador Beach Hotel, they're sitting around the lobby. They're not rushing towards the airport. The roads are very quiet. I'm sure that people are beginning to realize that there is something that is going to happen here. I don't know if they have the complete picture of it. What we do expect is that Hurricane Andrew is going to hit Nassau with a pretty good wallop right now. It's approximately 185 miles east of Nassau, 110 miles east of Eleuthera, and I was just talking with our weather people, and they said that Eleuthera, it looks like it's beginning to get some of the weather from Andrew. The weather service here in Nassau says that hurricane winds are actually extending 80 miles out from Andrew and 85 miles for tropical winds. So we should start seeing some of Andrew's force here in just a matter of hours. And, of course, it'd be good to stay tuned to what's going on here in Nassau, and I'll stay on the air as long as the telephones here last and try to get some pictures to you, because this is where Miami can get a picture of what to expect. This is sort of a forward observation post, and we're going to let you know what Andrew does in Nassau, so you can imagine when it comes to South Florida.
You're back, Ed. We were losing you there momentarily. And I understand that there may be some folks from here in town that are stranded out there on cruise ships. Have you been able to find out what's happening as far as that's concerned?
Well, last night about 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 in the morning, I should say, 2 in the morning, I was out and just cruising around Nassau and this part of New Providence Island, and there were at least 2 cruise ships in port.
Apparently, Ed, we have lost, that was Ed Odell reporting live via telephone line from Nassau in the Bahamas, and he was telling us how they are already starting to feel some of the effects of Andrew. With me now again is Brian Allen. And when exactly will the Bahamas be feeling the full effect?
Well, right now, if we can go and go to the satellite shot here up on the system here, look at that last picture right there. We'll try to get this zoomed in for you here in just a couple of seconds. But the little bit of orange you see right there, right before the red, that is now moving into Eleuthera, as Edwin just alluded to there. And with the forward speed, it does not look like, well, actually, since we are into the northwestern Bahamas already with Eleuthera, they are beginning to feel the effects of Andrew, which should only be a few hours now before Freeport and Nassau begin to feel that as well. What we're waiting on right now is we do have the 8 o'clock advisory out, and those are the numbers that we've been giving you so far as where Andrew is located. We're waiting on a reconnaissance flight in the system right now. Should be in there about 8:30 this morning. Winds now still at 120. Once the reconnaissance flight comes out, it looks like we may see those winds hiked up a little bit more. We are at a Category 3 hurricane right now. Now, a Category 3 is 111 to 130 miles per hour. If we cross the 130 mile per hour threshold, we would be into a Category 4 hurricane, something that we really have to contend with here, but we're still waiting on the reconnaissance flight to come on through and to let us know what is going on in there. as far as the satellite imagery goes, Andrew is definitely getting wound up. The eye becoming more defined and the banding looking better, and Andrew's starting to take some better shape.
Now, last night I heard Brian Norcross explaining that if that eye moves a little bit south of us, it's actually bad news for a lot of us. Why is that?
It's definitely bad news for us. I'm sitting here looking at the report right now. It still looks as if, for us, most of the heavy winds are still on the north and northeast side of the hurricane. So if the eye were to drop down a little bit, we'd get the brunt of the hurricane. So what we'd actually like to see in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area would be actually for the eye to pass to the north of us, but it does not look like that's going to happen. I was just looking now at the 12-hour forecast, and they drop it down 1/10 of a degree as far as the latitude goes.
Now, that plane is out there now, so hopefully we'll get some kind of report within the next half hour.
The plane is out there. We're just waiting to hear as far as when the plane is in there and when they're taking their soundings and finding out what's going on inside Andrew.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Now, folks, we do have a lot of phone numbers for you, so get a pen and a pencil ready. We're going to give you these numbers because these are numbers you're going to want to keep handy while preparing for Hurricane Andrew. And if they are busy, keep trying to get through. We have a lot of folks trying to get through. First, we're going to show you a list of evacuation places in Dade County. I will remain quiet as we show you this list. It is rather lengthy, so go ahead and take some notes. Now, if you're worried about whether or not you are in an evacuation area, please jot down these numbers. In Dade, the number to call is 596-8735. Again, 596-8735 in Dade. There they are on your screen. In Broward, the number to call is 357-8454. And Monroe County has set up an 800 number. You dial 1-800-427-8340. Again, this is a rumor control hotline. And if you want to find out whether or not you are in an evacuation area. Well, some folks that are in those areas need to do some early planning. Brian Norcross has this report.
We don't think you're going to hit. So we're having a hurricane party.
I'd say that everybody who stayed wished they would have left.
We're going to take our chances.
Many of the people in our county can stay right where they are, but they must take precautions.
Are you going to stay or are you going to leave?
I was going to stay, but now after talking to you, I'm kind of skeptical.
When your county issues an evacuation order, it's not a suggestion. It means get out.
We're not going to issue an evacuation order unless people's lives are in extreme jeopardy if they stay in that particular area.
First to go are all people in mobile homes, no matter where they're located.
I thought maybe the trailer would be tipped over, or maybe sideways or bent up, but I never imagined that it would just be gone.
Next are the coastal and low-lying areas. If you live east of US 1, chances are you're in an evacuation zone.
It scares me because we're talking now about an awful lot of people on an already crowded road system trying to do something in a very short period of time.
The weak links in the evacuation process are the bridges, as Charleston found out last year.
The only bridge to Sullivan's Island and the Isle of Palms was knocked out. You can't help but think of our Florida Keys or Key Biscayne. Only one bridge, one way in and out. The water rises, the bridge breaks, there's an accident, and there's no way out. Fortunately, the people over here on these islands got out early. The evacuation plans worked very well. But the situation in South Florida is much different. We have as many as 10 times the number of people that will have to get out. And most of the houses over on these islands are second homes, and the people had already left even before the evacuation order came.
Simply put, evacuations save lives. And with all these potential problems, the thing to do is get out early. Relocate inland, carrying your hurricane supplies with you, in case you get stuck on the road.
The best place again to go is with family and friends or to a hotel or motel that you've made arrangements with in advance to receive you.
Now, we should also like to point out we're getting a lot of calls from folks out there wondering whether or not Miami International Airport is going to close. Now, this is what we know thus far. Officials at the airport are going to meet in about a half hour at 9 o'clock this morning to decide what to do, but the airport has not closed as of right now.
Okay.
Now, we do also understand that a lot of folks out of town trying to get back in are finding it very difficult to get flights back into town because we have some people on staff that are out of town trying to fly in, and they're having a hard time coming back.
Yeah, you can also
we'll
check,
let you know as far as what happens in the next
and also
hour
you can
or
also
so.
check with your airline. The air carrier should have an idea of what's going on. We have Dr. Bob Sheets, now Director of the National Hurricane Center, with us in Coral Gables. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
First off, Bob, we're waiting here on the recon flight. Have you heard from this flight yet? Are they in Andrew yet?
Well, they're just coming in there right now. They were going to be about 20 to 30 minutes late in getting that report in. Takes a while to get back and forth through the center of that and then get us the report back. No, we haven't gotten that yet.
Okay, what are you looking for? What is your gut feeling here that you're going to find when we start to see the recon information come in?
Well, the lowest pressure will probably be in the 940s, somewhere in that zone. So we'll be a very strong Category 3 hurricane approaching a Category 4. It's going to be fluctuating probably during the day between the 3 and the 4.
Okay, Bob, I've been going over the forecast information that we're looking at this morning. What are we looking for as we roll into this evening as far as Miami and Fort Lauderdale? Still around sunset, and then a little bit later on this evening as we head toward the midnight hour.
Yeah, I think that as far as the conditions here in South Florida are concerned, they're going to be very good for preparing for the hurricane all day long. And so the fringe effects of this hurricane, you see they're out here now approaching the Bahamas. That will not get here until late this evening, more likely early tomorrow morning.
What about conditions now outside as far as the ocean goes and the probability we're starting to get some chop coming in?
Well, that could happen sometime today. Now, this is a smaller hurricane than some of the previous hurricanes, so you don't get those huge swells like we did with Gabrielle and a few others. So this will start occurring probably later today, and I would certainly urge people not to go to the beach and surf today.
All right, Dr. Bob Sheets, we will check back in with you this morning, and as soon as we get the recon info into the Channel 4 STEM Center, we'll go ahead and break it down and give it to you. But you heard him say they're looking for air pressure down around 940s. It's at 951 millibars right now, and also it looks on satellite that we're seeing some strengthening, so we could be fringe Category 4.
What does it mean when he says it's a small hurricane?
When he says small,
a larger...
it's a compact hurricane. If we think back to Hugo took up a lot of space. Andrew's taking up a very small amount of space. We've seen hurricanes out there that have grown to be monsters, so it's actually a very tight, compact system, which is good for us because it means it'll be in and out quickly. I mean, actually, if we're looking at landfall for some time on Monday, Tuesday actually should not be that bad. Maybe some showers around, but it looks like most of it should be through the area.
All right, and we also understand this just in, my producer just telling me that Joaquin Avignon, Dade County manager, will be making a special announcement in just a few minutes, and we will carry that announcement live as soon as we have it. Now, also, we have Frank Motek, who will be heading over to the Keys, and we will have that picture for you live as well to see how the evacuation plans are going out of the Florida Keys. As you know, that is an area that if you live there, you should be really planning to get out if you haven't already done so. And the closest shelter, I understand, is the FIU South Campus, which is off Tamiami Trail and 107th Avenue.
Also down through Monroe County, all the way through US 1, as you're heading north, there are area shelters throughout, and there are signs posted, and if you don't know or you're not sure, if you see a trooper or a Monroe County sheriff or one of the police officers down there, you can pull over and ask them because they are scattered throughout the Keys.
Brian, one of the things we hear all the time is not only the flooding, but the tornadoes.
Right.
What are the chances of, you said it was a small hurricane, but it is packing, fierce winds.
Oh, definitely. Anytime you see a hurricane make landfall, many tornadoes are spawned from a hurricane, both on the front side and the back side of the system as it comes on through. So not only do we have to deal with the high winds, the storm surge, the
flooding,
huge amounts of rain and the flooding, we also have to be prepared for tornadoes as well.
Okay, thank goodness we don't get these often.
That's right.
Well, we have photographer Larry Morales, Larry Morales went out earlier this morning, and he was at Home Depot, and we have that footage for you now. Okay, that was photographer Larry Morales' video of a Home Depot. You saw the long lines, folks getting ready to buy their lumber and all the other needs. Now we're going to go to a live picture now of Dade County Manager Joaquin Avignon, who is getting ready. I believe he's already started his statement.
Insofar as the evacuation, we have already, for the various pickup points, depending on the zip codes, the attached list, which will be provided to all of you. And as such, we have already buses in place and drivers in place to begin the process of evacuation with those points.
Mr. Manager, does this mean that everybody must evacuate by law?
We recommend that everybody take this seriously, and if you're in the area that's covered under the evacuation notice, evacuate.
Any information about buses, about picking people up?
The buses are already in place and ready to begin in the evacuation. Location for the pickup points varies depending on the zip codes, and that information will be provided along with a press release.
What if somebody won't evacuate?
They have to evacuate. We strongly recommend that they follow the law and evacuate. It's for their own well-being. This is serious. Again, the reason to evacuate is for their safety, and they should take this extremely serious.
Can you tell us what your plans are here at the EEOC for the next 24 hours?
Well, we're going to be continuing the operation at the emergency center here, and we'll, continue the monitoring and we'll keep everybody updated as to what the status is.
By what time do they have to evacuate?
Evacuation starts now. Hopefully, all of the evacuation will be done, by nightfall sometime. So we're anticipating, hopefully, to have the whole area evacuated by nightfall.
Are police going door to door?
No, police is not going door to door right now. What we're doing is we're starting the evacuation. We have the pickup points as it relates to the transit locations, and we expect people to go out voluntarily and other people on their own and evacuate the areas.
What about senior citizens who cannot really move that well on their own?
We have also STS, Special Transportation System. They'll call in, and that's coordinated for pickup, and they'll be picked up and taken to the shelters.
You're suggesting the residents bring certain items with them to the shelter. What are those?
Correct. The items that they should be bringing with them should include first aid kit, baby food, toiletries, flashlight, identification, and any valuable papers, any medicine, and they should also be taking with them any cards or games to keep them entertained for the duration, and any radios with batteries.
Without going into the area codes, going down the laundry list, can you give us some specific or general areas where
The general areas, the area that's already been highlighted by all of the press, and basically it's all of the barrier islands, Miami Beach, Key Biscayne, and the barrier islands. In addition to that, the area east of Brickell and east of Old Cutler. And in some cases in the south area, it goes all the way to US 1.
So Matt, do you have some estimate of how many people that represents?
175,000 or so.
How many buses are out there?
We have all of the available buses are, working on this. This is our top priority. They'll be running continuously. Thank you.
Briefing's over.
Okay, so basically, that's the word. We do have an evacuation in Dade County. We'll get the specifics up on the air, and the thing to remember is there are bus pickups that he talked about, and also basically Barrier Islands, Miami Beach, and everything basically east of US 1 towards the south, Will Cutler Road, and so on. So that's the evacuation call. We'll be sorting this out for you. By the way, these windows right here were covered up by Venetian blinds just a little while ago. We don't even have a look now into the actual planning sessions that are going on. So I'm sure this is going to be cured later on. We certainly do hope. But that's currently what's going on here at the center. Back to you guys.
All right, Hank, thank you very much. And that was Hank Tester reporting live. He was covering Miami City manager Joaquin Avignon. I apologize for that. But the manager letting everyone know that the city is making buses available in order to transport roughly 175,000 people who are in those evacuation zones to shelters. And we have a couple of numbers that we would like to give you at this time. There was mention of elderly people, people with special needs. Well, there are numbers set up so that if you are in this category, you can call for assistance. In Dade, that number is 596-8700. 596-8700. In Broward, the special needs number is 357-6402. 357-6402. And of course, here at Channel 4, we have the Help Center, which is manned by volunteers. They've been there since the early morning hours. They will continue to be there taking your phone calls. Any questions you have, you can call us at 379-HELP in Dade or at 523-HELP in Broward, and we will certainly try to get the answers. If we don't have them, we will try to get back to you. If not, we will broadcast them over the air. Now, just a couple of things. If you're headed over to a shelter, just to emphasize here, among the things you need to take with you, flashlights, first aid kits. If you have babies, baby food, batteries, any valuable papers that you might want to take with you, any prescription medicine that you might have. Those are things you need to take with you to these shelters. But, just try to secure your place as much as you possibly can, but don't stay there, folks. From someone who's been through a couple of hurricanes, you want to get out because the safety of you and your loved ones is the most important things. Now, we have Dave Bloom at the Broward Emergency Center. Let's go to Dave now for an update. Dave.
Okay, Teresa, a couple new things up here in Broward. First of all, the shelters are opening at 10 a.m. That means in an hour and a half, you'll find the shelters open here in Broward County. And an hour from now at 9:30, the bus service will begin. Now, for you folks who don't have what they call their Broward County Hurricane Evacuation Plan, which is the handout that they supposedly have given to everyone in the county, if you don't have that and you need to call, we've been giving out the phone number for that. It's 357-8454. Again, 357-8454. And that's if you want to call in and find out, if you don't have transportation, how you get a bus to one of these shelters. Now, one thing that's very important to point out, there are 37 shelters open here in Broward County, but 4 of them have been closed for right now. 4 of them will not be opening, okay? Those are the Dillard High School shelter. You might see I put a little X next to him here. The Dillard High School shelter will not open. The Hollywood Hills High School shelter will not be open. The Ramblewood Middle School shelter will not be open. And the Tamarack Elementary School shelter will not be open. Again, Dillard High, Hollywood Hills High, Ramblewood Middle, and Tamarack Elementary School. Those 4 shelters will not be open. And they've added another one, which I think we've added to our list to make it 37 minus these 4, which is the Margate Middle School. They're going to open a shelter there. Now, joining us live is Debbie Miller of the Broward County Red Cross. Debbie, I know we just covered some stuff here, but what else do we need to tell people who might need to be evacuated?
Well, they have to remember to bring bedding with them and some snacks. By the time we start getting the food together and stuff, food, snacks for them to eat, the bedding, of course, their medicine, if they take medication, If they're bringing any kids with them, make sure they bring something for the kids to be able to be entertained with, because, of course, you're not talking the most luxury accommodations for everybody. So bring your bare essentials with you, a flashlight, a radio, battery-operated radio for you to entertain yourself with, your basic stuff.
Okay, Debbie Miller of the Red Cross, what are your concerns right now? I mean, I saw Jack Overholt, the county administrator up here, walk by, take a look at that hurricane, and he just shook his head.
Our major concern is going to be the people leaving. There hasn't been a hurricane in South Florida for so long. The apathy of, not having one. The people may not want to evacuate.
And what are you telling them right now?
I suggest they do leave.
Okay, and again, this is a mandatory, Debbie, thank you very much, Debbie Miller of the Red Cross, and again, we'll be talking to her, I'm sure, throughout the day. This is not a voluntary evacuation. This is a mandatory evacuation. It's the Plan C evacuation for Broward County. So if you have one of these handy-dandy little maps here, that the blue, the yellow, and the red area, and we'll come back to this at some point and show you it defined, but essentially, as we've said over and over again, it's the Palm Beach County line south to Atlantic Boulevard. Everything east of US 1, from Palm Beach County line to Atlantic Boulevard, has to be evacuated. Now, east of Dixie Highway from Atlantic to Sunrise needs to be evacuated. So that's Atlantic, south of Sunrise, it expands out to east of Dixie. And from Sunrise, south of the Dade County line, it expands to I-95. That's a huge evacuation zone. You heard Hank talk about how many people they're evacuating in Dade County. You're talking about 430,000 people, close to 500,000 people who need to be evacuated long before this storm hits. So if you're in Broward County and you're watching us now, please get moving now. Teresa?
Dave, a quick question here. Are authorities going door to door yet at this point?
I don't know about them going door to door. What the county administrator told us just a moment ago was that they were going to be going with sirens. You're going to have the emergency warning sirens, which will be going off. Plus, you'll have Broward County Sheriff's officers and local police going with their sirens. I don't know at this point that they're actually physically knocking on doors. We hope that people are watching us, that people, by now are well aware that this hurricane is bearing down on South Florida.
You said at 10 a.m. is it when these are opening up, these shelters?
Right. The shelters open at 10 a.m. That's a little less than an hour and a half from now. And again, I don't know if we can right now, but let's try to roll this shelter list. I don't know if we can right now, but if we don't, we'll roll it very shortly and show you exactly where all the shelters are. But just so that, because it bears repeating, Dillard High School, Hollywood Hills High School, Ramblewoods Middle School, Tamarack Elementary School, those 4 shelters, if you're looking on your list, will not be open. Okay, this list is up now. I know it's going to take a little time to go through this, but certainly this is worth it, so you folks know. But again, if you see those 4 shelters, Dillard High, Hollywood Hills High, Ramblewood Middle, or Tamarack Elementary School, on our list, it's only because, see, there's Dillard right there. It's only because they've just told us within the last few minutes that they won't be opening these 4 shelters. For example, at Dillard High School, they found out just within the last several hours, apparently, that the roof might not sustain the sort of damage that they think that they'll get in a hurricane, and so consequently they don't want people inside there. Sure. Although they've told us that they don't think it's a dire situation. What they've said is, we don't want to take any chance, but if we get so many people, we're going to put people in any available space we have. So the bottom line is, you've got phone calls here that are ringing. We've got the phone numbers that we've showed you before. Bus service starts in a little less than an hour for those folks who don't have another way out. And the shelters, which you're seeing us going through right now, open at 10 a.m.
Also,
Teresa,
you added Margate Middle School to that list.
That's right. I'm glad you pointed that out. There were originally 36 shelters, but Margate Middle School is now an additional shelter. So you've got the 37 minus the 4. You've got 33 shelters in Broward County for about 500,000 people. They say that they've got enough, but obviously from a luxurious living standpoint, you probably don't want to be in a shelter if you don't have to be in a shelter. Now, when we come back we want to go through these lists completely. I hope you've got a pen and a piece of paper. If you don't, let me just reiterate the phone number you can dial here if I can find it.
I think I have it. Is that the 357-8454?
I'm glad you're there, Teresa, because
I'm jotting everything
I've got all
down.
these notes in my hands. That's right. It's 357-8454. Let's say you're sitting at home, don't know where to go. That's where you should call.
And if it's busy, keep trying, because there are people there. How are they doing as far as volunteers at all these shelters?
Well, I'll tell you, these folks, many of them, I see some new faces here, but many of these people have been here since very, very early this morning, some since late last night. And so they're working their best. They don't know some of the information that we're giving you, so please keep watching us.
And we'll keep going back to you, David. Thank you so much. Well, look, and again, if you need to go to one of these shelters, some of the things you should take with you: some bedding, flashlight, batteries, snacks, valuable papers, and any jewelry valuables you might have, first aid kits, batteries if you have children, babies, some baby food, some toys to keep them occupied, and of course medication if you are on some kind of prescribed medication. Now, Brian Allen is joining me once again. We're getting ready to go back to the Hurricane Center.
We're going to go back to Dr. Bob Sheets in about 45 seconds. One more thing, though, about the shelters. No pets accepted into shelters. So if you are going to a shelter, you're being evacuated to a shelter, you either have to make arrangements to drop your pet off someplace to either have it boarded or have a friend watch it, or make a space for your pet, either in your garage or else your bathroom. Put down some plastic, some extra food, some extra water, a lot of food and a lot of water, actually, because you do not know how long you will be gone. But none of the shelters will be accepting pets. So therefore, you do have to make other arrangements. All right, we're getting ready to go now to Dr. Bob Sheets, the director of the National Hurricane Center here in Coral Gables. Still keeping an eye on Andrew. Dr. Bob, I know we've got a recon flight in there, but I was just looking at the latest satellite picture, and it looks like Eleuthera is now starting to feel some of the fringe of Andrew right now.
Well, yes, that's the cirrus cloud that's coming out over the top of the hurricane at this time. The recon is in there, indeed found the pressure down to 934 millibars, so that's a continuing strengthening of that hurricane. But you're seeing the fringe effects. Now, this is mostly cirrus, so there's not any strong winds. It's really back in here where the strongest winds are, the rain bands and so on.
What are we looking at as far as the field radius for the tropical storm winds approaching in toward Eleuthera, and also the depth of the winds back before we hit the hurricane strength winds?
Out on the west side there, they're probably running out there maybe 50, 60, 75 miles. So something out in this zone. So they'll be coming across to Eleuthera within the next 2 to 3 hours. We'll start seeing the winds pick up there.
Have you had any reports out of the Bahamas yet as far as what's going on out there?
No, and you'll probably get those before we do. We have the surface observations that we're getting from the Bahamas themselves, but nothing yet.
934, you said, as far as 934 millibars for the pressure for this. Do you think we're looking at a 4 by the time the next advisory comes out, Dr. Sheets?
But yes, that's getting very close to that strength of a Category 4. That's similar in the pressure that Hugo made landfall in South Carolina.
Let me ask you this now. If we're possibly looking at a 4 on the way, what does that change now for Dade and Broward County?
Well, the areas that are ordered for evacuations are very close in those Category 3, strong Category 3. That's what we were dealing with, as compared to just barely in a Category 4. We talk about these magic thresholds, but 5 or 10 miles per hour difference in wind doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
All right, Dr. Sheets, we'll be checking back in with you, I'm sure, throughout the morning tonight, and then again in on tomorrow morning as Hurricane Andrew approaches. Let me just tell you this, 375 miles right now from Miami, my quick math, the storm field, 300 miles difference right now between the leading edge of some of the tropical storm winds and Miami. And one more thing that we want to let you know, if you're going out today, because we do have the luxury today of some decent weather for people to be out there, Y100 radio. Keep it on your car, if you've got your Walkman, whatever, because everything we get will be on Y100. That way, if you're out of the house and you're in the lines for a couple of hours, we can give you the latest on Y100 radio. Make sure you keep it there.
Also, something else, this really has come in so handy, and this is the hurricane preparedness booklet that we prepared here at Channel 4. It does, if you do have it, it lists everything from what you need to have to evacuation zones, as the Dr. Sheets was just pointing to, and how it may change a little bit depending on whether or not it goes to a category, 3 or 4 at this point. Because we have it listed by zip code numbers.
Right.
And if you want to know, you can call us here at the Help Center, and you can just give us your zip code, and we'll let you know whether or not, according to this, you should be evacuating. Again, the numbers are 379-HELP in Dade, 523-HELP in Broward, and we do have volunteers manning those phones.
Yes, and
we will be here around the clock.
Yes.
Just like they are, we will be here too, trying to give you the best updated information. Now, just to briefly sum this up, from what I understand so far, we have 430,000 people evacuating in Broward or being asked to evacuate. 75,000 in Dade. That is 605,000 folks. You're talking about a major evacuation going on here.
More than 500,000 people.
And if this thing becomes a Category 4, which would place it at winds of 131 to 155 miles per hour, those numbers could increase. So we ask you to please stay tuned to us, and we'll keep you up to the minute as far as any new developments.
We actually have had somewhat of a luxury here, and let me explain what I mean by luxury. The Hurricane Center has done such a fantastic job, and everything in the environment cooperated so that we could keep a really good handle on what Andrew was doing. And the forecast has basically held the path that at least when we were looking Thursday, and we were all walking around the newsroom here and we were talking to the Hurricane Center, we were talking about a Florida hit then as a possibility, so that way we could gear it up to give you the information a little bit more prepared than with the storm just all of a sudden developing and bearing down on us. So that it at least is a luxury that people were able to go out last night and yesterday afternoon to get supplies, and then with the grocery stores open last night and again
early this morning, very early.
We've really had a good space to breathe as
and I
far
must say
as
this
being
from
prepared.
Early on, it seems that a lot of meteorologists and the weather people have been talking about the possibility of this storm intensifying and heading in our direction, despite the fact that it did change there at the very beginning when it was out by Africa.
Yeah, it was last Sunday night, as a matter of fact. I had to think there for a second that Andrew got a name as far as tropical storm. Andrew, a Cape Verde storm. Those are the ones that we always have to watch out for, the waves that come off Africa and then sit around the Cape Verde Islands. Those are the ones that have a long time just to sit out there and gain some strength. Andrew moved, though, pretty quickly. And again, the National Hurricane Center and the environment all cooperating, and that at least it gave us some type of breathing room to at least put together better forecasts to keep everybody up to date, and that did buy us some extra time as far as getting
and there's
everything
still time
prepped.
today, folks. And
definitely.
From what I understand, it's going to be pretty nice out for the next few hours.
It looks like, well, it's only 8:45 this morning. I would say we're still looking at least 9 to 10 hours of some decent weather before we start to pick up some wind. It looks like the real heavy wind will be in here toward the midnight hour tonight.
Okay. And also, we'd like to let you know that we do have a crew out in the Florida Keys, and we're going to be bringing you that live picture as soon as we have it. Frank Motek is out there, Sky 4. So we'll be bringing you that information and the evacuation plans as far as those folks that are in the upper Keys and are headed this way or are already here for the most part. Also, just a couple of things. What you should have on hand, besides your batteries, your flashlights, your first aid kit, things like that, even if you decide to stay home, prescription medicines, eyeglasses, film for insurance photos, pet food, insect repellent, stuff that may not be available once a storm does hit and it passes. It may be a few days before you get to the supermarket.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you've been prepared and you've already gone through the boarding up, or you're in that process right now and you've got the camera laying around, go ahead and go out there and get the pictures today before it hits. That's going to be very important that you've got the before pictures for your insurance company. So that you can go through and say, hey, look, half my roof missing and all this. Not that they'd give you a problem, but still the documentation helps a lot as far as being prepared. One more thing we want to touch on again, do not open windows in your house. This is something we've still been getting calls about all morning long in the help center. We've also been getting a lot of calls as far as the turbines, the ventilation systems on the tops of roofs. You can actually go to the hardware store and buy a cover that either screws or nails in. And one of our engineers from upstairs told me the last time he went through a hurricane here, went in the kitchen, took one of his pizza pans, went up and nailed it down, put some duct tape around,
as long
and
as
not
it
a
did
lot
the
of
job.
moisture. It held it in, so you can remove those turbines off your roof.
Also, for those folks who are calling asking about flights being canceled, let me just let you know what we know thus far is that Miami International Airport officials, we don't know about Fort Lauderdale yet, but Miami International Airport officials are going to be meeting at approximately 9 o'clock in about 10 minutes or so to decide what to do about incoming and outgoing flights. And we will let you know what they decide as soon as we know ourselves. In the interim, when a hurricane warning is in effect, you know, many people want to just get out of town, but are the airports open? Well, if you're stuck in an airport when a hurricane hits, are you safe? Channel 4's Susan Wallace investigated, and this is what she found.
When Walt Houghton looks at baggage carts on the runway at Fort Lauderdale's airport, he sees potential missiles. Anything that is not tied down, even the jetways, will be destructive in killer hurricane winds. As operations manager here, Houghton is in the hot seat during the emergency. It's his call when to shut that airport down.
It's a real crapshoot. You know, you've got to really have some timely weather information to be able to make an assessment.
Houghton's assessment will be made that much easier thanks to this videotape from his counterpart in Charleston, South Carolina. At the height of Hurricane Hugo last September, Charleston airport workers walked through their airport to document damage, and the damage was extensive. The terminal roof was blown off.
That's where the first failure occurred. That's
when we first knew we were in trouble.
South Florida airports would like to avoid that kind of trouble. When a hurricane watch is in effect, each airline is put on notice to clear runways of debris. When the warning kicks in and the winds kick up to 45 knots, flights in and out are stopped.
At that point, normal airline operations are going to be curtailed here. Each airline is going to make that call, but with our assistance, that we really don't want loads of passengers disgorged into a terminal, that maybe this is the where they'll have to stay.
For those travelers trapped at the Fort Lauderdale airport, the county will bus them to other shelters. At Miami's airport, which is much farther inland, passengers will be moved to safer spots within the building.
If they're inside the airport already, if they're inside the terminal, obviously we would offer them shelter. But I'm not saying that we would advise everyone to come to flock to the airport. Absolutely not.
At the larger international airports, it's not necessarily the big planes that are the major concern. As Charleston found out, the little ones can do the most damage and are more easily damaged once they're airborne in hurricane-force winds. Advice for small plane owners?
Number one you should do is fly the aircraft out of the area, if at all possible. Number two, if you can possibly hangar that light aircraft in a storm-proof structure.
Anderson admits there really is no such thing as a structure that is truly storm-proof. After all, Charleston's airport was built to withstand hurricane-force winds and didn't. South Florida airports, too, are built to hurricane code. They've never been tested, and a big storm here could provide a trial by terror. Susan Wallace, Channel 4 News.
Okay, let's go ahead and come back for a second and bring you up to date on the coordinates for Andrew, the winds, and exactly what's going on. Here you go, the latest advisory, latitude 25.5 degrees north. That has been a due westerly course for over the past, I'd probably have to remember back 8 or 9 hours or so. Longitude about 74.1 west, still moving to the west at 16. Now then, the pressure, 951 millibars, that was from the 8 o'clock advisory. But there is a hurricane reconnaissance aircraft in Andrew right now, and we just talked to Dr. Sheets a couple of minutes ago. He said that pressure is now down to 937. That is an indication that Andrew is still intensifying. Therefore, the winds at 120 miles per hour, once we get the reconnaissance information in, maybe up to close to maybe the 130 category, approaching a Category 4 hurricane. There you can see Andrew still 375 miles east of Miami. And as far as the 937 millibar, that would put the actual barometric pressure in inches in Andrew right around probably 2792, maybe even into 2788. Let's go ahead and show you now where the warnings are. All the red you see, the northern and central Bahamas, from Vero Beach down to West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Key Largo, Marathon, Key West, then out to the Dry Tortugas. That is all a hurricane warning. From Vero Beach north to Titusville, that is a tropical storm warning hurricane watch. Then you get out on the west coast from Tampa to just north of Flamingo. They are under a hurricane watch. Go ahead and show you the latest on Andrew. We've got the latest satellite picture in as we roll the loop. And there you can see the eye, the bright pink right there, intensifying, spreading out a little bit, broadening it. That's where the highest convection is, the tallest thunderstorm tops, the most violent portion of the storm. And right there's the eye. The eye still very well defined. You can still see the banding going on. And right there, the fringe hitting Eleuthera. And then right there would be New Providence, right in where Nassau is. We'll have the latest for you as soon as we get the information in from the reconnaissance aircraft. We're anticipating that hopefully within about 15, 20 minutes. And then we'll have the latest for you as to exactly what Andrew is doing. Teresa?
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. Well, time to go now to Frank Motek, who is in Sky 4 over the Miami River. Hello?
Andrew has South Florida boaters on the move right now. There's a long line of boats going into the Miami River right now, trying to get to safe ports. A traffic jam of yachts, sailboats, boats of all kind now heading into the Miami River in the downtown Miami area, hoping to get a secure spot along the river to avoid Hurricane Andrew's strong winds. Now, the boats are coming from all over, Key Biscayne, South Beach. Boat owners taking Andrew very, very seriously here as they move into the Miami River, one of the safest places for the boats to go in advance of the storm. We see a long line of boats from Key Biscayne, from South Beach Marina, all heading into the Miami River area. Also, boat owners taking action to secure their boats where they are right now, putting up extra lines, trying to secure the boats as best as possible if they can't move them out at this time. But definitely frantic preparations going on among South Florida boaters here. Also at the Port of Miami, they're preparing as well. I understand the Sea Escape has canceled its cruise for today, and it's not a great day, obviously, for any Caribbean cruises. So you may want to check with the cruise line if you have a cruise schedule. Looks like those plans have been put on hold for the time being. And it looks like just about everything has been upset by the approach of Hurricane Andrew. So you'll definitely want to check with your airline, check with your cruise line if you have any travel plans coming out of here at South Florida. Sharks Airline also, I understand, has now canceled its flights from Paradise Island and also to Key West today. But they are flying 2 flights out to Bimini this morning so that people there can make some arrangements to secure their homes and boats and also to evacuate people from Bimini. Sharks Airlines, the amphibious airline, flying a couple of flights out here this morning. That's the latest from my vantage point over Key Biscayne.
All right, thank you very much. That was Frank Motek reporting live in Sky 4 over the Miami River. You saw those boats heading for
major traffic jam out there.
Yeah. Well, we just want to give you another list of phone numbers. We've been giving you a lot of phone numbers, but folks, keep these handy. And if it's busy, keep trying because people are manning these phones. We're going to start here with the recorded, for up-to-the-minute recorded hurricane information. In Dade, you dial 358-8000, code 4444. In Broward, 731-7000, code 4444. Also, we have the Help Center numbers for you. If you live in Dade, you can call the Channel 4 News Help Center. The number is 379-HELP. In Broward, 523-HELP. We have volunteers manning the phones. Any questions you have on your mind, whether it be what you do with your pool, insurance, anything you have on your mind, go ahead and ask them. They have people standing by. If we don't know the answer, we'll get it to you. We'll broadcast it here live. As you well know, Channel 4 is not going off the air. We will continue to bring you round-the-clock information and update you on Hurricane Andrew. Now, we also have another number we'd like to give you, and this is a special needs number set up by the Red Cross to help the elderly and handicapped people. The number in Dade is 596-8700. In Broward, 357-6402. Again, in Dade, 596-8700. And in Broward, 357-6402. And just to recap, a couple of things going on. We are now in a hurricane warning. It is now, we have Brian Allen with us. Why don't you tell us, give us before we sign off for this hour and come back.
Andrew, right now, 375 miles to the east of Miami. Winds now at 120 miles per hour. That's starting to become a major Category 3 hurricane. We're waiting the info from a reconnaissance flight that is in there right now. Indications are the pressure has dropped about 17 millibars, which is a pretty good pressure fall. More indication that Andrew is strengthening, could possibly be a Category 4 hurricane here sometime this afternoon, maybe the 11 o'clock advisory. If not, probably later on this afternoon. One more thing I want to touch on. If you are leaving the house today and you're going out to do some different things as far as supplies, hardware store, the grocery store, you can get everything that we're doing on Y100 radio. That way you can always know exactly what's going on with us as well. And it looks like also on Andrew right now, Eleuthera starting to feel some of the fringe. So that means Nassau not that far off from feeling some of the beginning of
When
Andrew.
will we start to feel the beginning of Andrew?
I'm guessing right now about 9 to 10 hours, maybe even 11, maybe closer to about the midnight hour as we roll on through. So we've got a great day today to finish up on last-minute things that you did not get a chance to get done.
When was the last time we had such a big hurricane come through the area? Was it Betsy?
We were looking at Betsy in 65. That was the last major hit. But then again, don't forget we had David in 79 that just sort of played with us.
It played with us.
It really played with us and teased with us. So if you look at that, we're talking 27 years since
And I think when you were in the
threat.
Help Center earlier, you said a lot of folks, this was the first hurricane for a lot of folks in the area.
Definitely.
So we have to take this very seriously, folks.
Exactly, especially now that we are into evacuation. 605,000 people have to be moved.
Dade and Broward, that's a lot of people, major evacuation. Also, as we've been saying, Miami International Airport officials are going to meet in a few minutes. They begin their meeting at 9 o'clock this morning to decide what to do about incoming and outgoing flights. And we will bring you the results at that meeting as soon as we have it. We do not know as of yet what will be done out of Fort Lauderdale, but we'll bring you that information as we have it. Also, we're going to have a crew heading over to the Keys, and we'll bring you that live picture so that you can see what the evacuation plans look like as we take you via Sky 4 live over the Florida Keys. So you are watching Channel 4 News extended coverage, round-the-clock coverage of Hurricane Andrew. And again, we have lots of volunteers standing by here at the Channel 4 News Help Center. 379-HELP in Dade, 523-HELP in Broward. Any question, folks, that you may have We even have lumber companies that are calling us, letting us know these are the supplies we have. This is what we don't have. These are places where you can go find this. And again, if it's busy, keep calling.
Exactly.
379-HELP, 523-HELP.
We also have places where you can still get water. We also have...
and it's safe to get that tap water.
Exactly.
It's still
That's
safe.
the one more thing.
I mean, you can store
still
that
very
in your
safe
gallon
to
jugs.
drink, to go ahead and make tap water now.
Right.
Also, if you want to do that, go ahead and fill up the gallon jugs, freeze them, leave them in the freezer and refrigerator, pack everything in there, because if the power does go out for a while, you've sort of built yourself a cooler inside. And then as the water starts to melt down, you also have drinking water. One more idea, go ahead and fill the bathtub up and keep a bucket nearby. That way, if we do lose water service, you can still flush the toilet.
But before you fill that bathtub, you make sure and clean it with chlorine.
Very good.
Okay? Not that you're going to drink that water,
Right.
but that way that water is
Exactly.
clean for
You
any
also
other
use
use that
that
you
for
may
something
need.
else,
Well,
right.
that's going to do it for me, and I think you'll be back
I'll
the
be
next
back here,
hour.
yes.
Bob Mayer will be sitting in for me as I take a break and see what else is developing with Hurricane Andrew. Thanks for watching.
Live, this is a Channel 4 News Storm Center alert, tracking Hurricane Andrew.
We should point out right at the top that we'll be going back to those evacuation centers throughout the hour, so don't feel like you've missed anything. I'm Bob Mayer, along with Brian Allen, with our continuing coverage of the coming of Hurricane Andrew. I guess for those of you out there who are just awakening and just joining us, we should point out that Andrew is no small hurricane.
Exactly.
He's got winds now of 120 miles an hour, about 375 miles east of Miami, and heading directly our way. Pressure now dropping to 934 millibars, which means he's increasing in strength and perhaps could become a Category 4 hurricane. At what point, Brian Allen, does that occur?
Well, we've got to pass the 130 mile per hour threshold as far as maximum sustained wind. When we say maximum sustained wind, it means just that. Wind blowing constantly at that speed. If we do cross to 131, that would put us into Category 4. Now, the 8 o'clock advisory this morning had the pressure at 951 millibars, so we're talking about a huge drop in less than an hour. That coming from the reconnaissance flight. We're still waiting to find out what they're finding inside Andrew as far as sustained winds at the flight level. That will give us a better idea of what the storm is doing. With that rapid of a pressure drop, Andrew is definitely increasing. Some of the effects now starting to affect Eleuthera. Still looks to be about 110 miles away from Eleuthera, but the fringe wall out there about 85 miles, 75 miles, so they're starting to feel that now. Just a couple of hours before Nassau on New Providence feels it, then becomes Andros, and then up to the north for Freeport.
Well, let's get a couple of comparisons here if we can, Brian. If we in fact do hit this Category 4 level, which it looks like we're headed for, what would that make Andrew like? Like what other hurricane?
Well, Hugo was a 4 when Hugo came on shore in Charleston, South Carolina. But Hugo was also a much larger hurricane. But still, whether it's small or large, we're still talking about the same type of winds and the same possible destruction.
Without question, though, Miami has not seen anything like this in 25,
it's been years.
28 years.
It's been years. Like Teresa and I were just talking right before we all switched over here. We had David Flirt with us, but it's been since Betsy in 1965 that we have really seen some devastation from a hurricane. And if you think about the way the population has just multiplied and grown so rapidly. We have a lot of people down here that have never been through a hurricane.
Right, and for those who do not know, we've gone now from a hurricane watch to a hurricane warning, and that means we all have to start taking action beginning right now if you haven't already done so. Lots of things to do, Brian Allen. I guess number one, if you haven't already gotten your basic supplies, extra water, extra batteries,
Exactly.
Protection for windows, and we should point out let's talk about this tape thing for a minute.
Okay. Taping your windows really does no good. The basic thing is it just does not help. The best thing to do is either board up your windows, either that or else tin or some type, I'm drawing a blank here as far as the other type of metal involved. Basically, that's the best protection for your windows. Taping really does not do any good. And the other problem with taping is the idea is that if it blows in the window, you get something that comes through, you're still going to have flying glass in unless you just take and tape every part of the window from top to bottom. And that's not very realistic because if you're gone from your area for a while, we get back into decent weather, you're going to have a mess on your hands trying to get that tape off.
Lots of people already out, as you know, Brian
Yes.
Allen, getting supplies at the local hardware stores, at local Home Depots. We can take a look at some of the tape we shot earlier today. People looking for plywood and for batteries and for all of the myriad things we're going to be needing today and tomorrow in the coming days when Andrew finally does arrive here. And it looks at this point like landfall is going to be sometime early to mid-morning tomorrow.
That's what we're looking for. And let me just reiterate one point that Teresa and I were talking about earlier, and this is a very valid point. We have had some luxury with Andrew. I know that sounds sort of ironic because we have a possible Category 4 hurricane bearing down on us, but the forecasting has been so good with Andrew and everything is held together that as we came into Thursday, we actually had a lot of lead-in time to really start to get the word out that, hey, look, ladies and gentlemen, this is possibly real on the way. And the good thing is that as we came into this last night and we heard the warnings and watches going up for the Bahamas and for us here in South Florida, it actually bought us about 36 to 40 hours of lead time to go out and do things as far as stocking up supplies, getting wood, doing the hardware store thing. So instead of just having something develop and then move right in, we've been able to watch this and really keep an eye on it.
All right, Brian. And anyone still out there watching who is remaining in denial, listen to this. Evacuations, mandatory evacuations in Dade and Broward counties have now been ordered. Evacuations totaling more than 600,000 people. Channel 4's David Bloom is standing by live now at the Broward Office of Emergency Operations. David, what's the latest?
Well, Bob, let's just go over those evacuations first, because that's probably the most important thing to be telling people who, as you mentioned, might just be waking up right now. Again, if you live in Broward County, anywhere from the Palm Beach County line south to Atlantic, anything east of US 1 from there, from Palm Beach down to Atlantic Boulevard, you've got to evacuate. From Atlantic south to Sunrise, anything east of Dixie has to evacuate. And from Sunrise south to Dade County, anything east of I-95. That's a huge evacuation area. That's their Plan C evacuation, Broward County's largest evacuation area, covering about 430,000 people. Now, we've been showing you the shelter sites that are open, and we mentioned to you that there are 4 on that list that are not open right now. And what they're telling us is that those 4 shelters are not permanently closed, but rather they will open at some later point, just not right now. And those 4 shelters are Dillard High School, Hollywood Hills High School, Ramblewood Middle School, and Tamarack Elementary School. All of the shelters here in Broward County are going to open in a little bit less than an hour at 10 o'clock, and the bus service begins at 9:30. Now listen, they've added people here to answer phones. Not only have you got this group of people who've been here for several hours, but you've got a new group of people over here because the phone numbers are ringing off the hook. Again, the number here in Broward is 357-8454. I know we've said that again and again. It's 357-8454. Now, Bob, a couple new things to mention. Within the next hour, they expect that they will make an announcement telling people in Broward County, which should be obvious by this point, don't plan on going to work tomorrow. Government offices will be closed, schools will be closed. Now again, that announcement is not official yet, but they just told us that they expect to make that announcement within the hour, and that should be obvious to anyone who's watching Hurricane Andrew bear down on us. Also, they're telling us that the evacuation order officially gets signed at 9 o'clock. So that was 7 minutes ago? They officially signed the evacuation order. That means that at 12:30, 3.5 hours from now, the bridges get locked down. They've got this flotilla plan here in Broward County, which has been in effect since 7 p.m. last night. Like you can see, it's about 9:10 right now. And at 12:30, they lock down the bridges. That means if you're a boater and you're sitting at home, get out the door right now because you've got a little over 3 hours. Otherwise, your boat is not going to get up the New River to safety, in as much as that provides a sanctuary in this sort of storm. Bob, any questions?
Yeah, Dave, we know that of the 430,000 people who have been ordered to evacuate, many will never leave their homes or their high-rise apartments. What is the county doing other than getting the word out through the media to get them out?
Well, they're doing two things that I can mention right at the top. They're going to sound the evacuation sirens, those emergency sirens that we're all used to hearing when they do like nuclear preparedness drills, that sort of thing. You will hear those sirens going off. So if you're not watching the television, then you would hear that, and hopefully you would tune either to the radio or the television and figure out that something is going on. Also, police cars from Broward Sheriff's Office and local police departments will be going around with their sirens on, with their horns, saying, you live in a mandatory evacuation area. It's time for you to be getting out. And it's not something that you want to wait on, because you've got all of these people that are going to be coming west over these evacuation bridges. Certainly they're going to lock down the bridges, but you're going to see traffic problems. If you don't see them now, it's only because people, even in the face of this storm, are too complacent. So again, let me just reiterate where this evacuation area is here. Just one more time, it bears repeating.
Please.
If you've got a pen or pencil. I'm sorry?
No, please, go ahead. We need this.
It certainly bears repeating. From the Palm Beach County line south to Atlantic Boulevard. If you live anywhere east of US 1, you've got to leave. It's not a voluntary evacuation, it's a mandatory evacuation. From Atlantic south to Sunrise, anything east of Dixie. So basically, I know we don't have our map prepared yet because they sort of changed the evacuation route, but basically it kind of goes down like this and then juts out to include an even bigger area. So Atlantic south to Sunrise, anything east of Dixie, and then Sunrise south to the Dade County line, anything east of I-95. So in essence, you go US 1, you add and go to Dixie, you add and go out to I-95. It's a very, very large evacuation zone, the largest evacuation zone that they have. Let me just show you, since we don't have our map completed yet, since they changed this. In essence, if you live in the blue, yellow, or pink zone on this map, and I know you can't really read the street signs and stuff like that, but hopefully we've given to you, you can see that it's the largest evacuation zone that Broward County has, because, as we've heard our meteorologists say, they might change this to a Category 4 storm. It's a big one. It's barreling down upon us, and you've got to get ready.
Dave, I don't know this officially, but it would be my guess that the Broward County mandatory evacuation at this point is so much greater than and larger than the one in Dade County because they're expecting more water in Broward?
Frankly, Bob, I don't know the rationale. What they told us earlier in the day was that they wanted to be. They know that this storm at this point is getting more intense, and they know that they cannot wait until it gets upgraded to order a larger evacuation zone, because otherwise it might be too late. So what they're saying is, we anticipate the need for all of this area to evacuate. Let me add one other thing. Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is in this evacuation zone, but the airport remains open right now. They're telling us that they do not know when or if the airport will be closed. That's a decision that the Federal Aviation Administration will make, but that is in the evacuation zone. They also point out to us that the most important thing that they're doing right now, frankly, other than answering these myriad of phone calls which continue to pour in, the other important thing that they're doing is just trying to get ready for after the storm, because that's going to be their biggest concern at this point. Now, Peter, I see you walking in here, is with the Broward County. Is there anything more that you can tell us at this hour?
There's nothing except to continue to watch TV, look forward to the next bulletin, which I understand will be out at 11 a.m., and prepare to evacuate.
The 11 a.m. bulletin is the one that, as we've been told, will probably say, don't plan on going to work tomorrow, don't plan on going to any schools. That's what you're going to say at 11 o'clock, in essence, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and the bus service begins in 20 minutes. Tell us a little bit about that for people, maybe someone elderly sitting at home who doesn't have a way to get to these shelters.
The best thing to do would be to call the number here to find out exactly where to get bus service so that you can come from your home from the east-west, and it will take you to the appropriate shelter. That's 357, and you may know it better than I do.
Frankly, I don't, but I bet you that they can tell me back at the station. I just dropped my notes here to...
357-8454.
357-8454.
And they'll tell you exactly where to go.
Okay, so again, we should have another official announcement here around 11 o'clock, but the bottom line is there's a very, very large evacuation area, and you ought to start evacuating now.
All right, David, thanks for that report, and please stick with us. We'll be getting back with you later on in this hour. And the advice to continue to watch television, of course, good advice, but if you've got to leave your home or apartment to go to the store to get the supplies, you don't have to leave Channel 4. When you get in your car, or if you want to take a portable radio with you, we are now simulcasting on Y100 radio. That's 100.7 FM. You can leave your house, but you don't have to leave us here at Channel 4. Now, we talked about the evacuation in Broward County and how it's so much larger than the evacuation in Dade County. 175,000 people ordered evacuated within the last hour by Dade County Manager Joaquin Avignon.
We strongly recommend that they follow the law and evacuate. It's for their own well-being. This is serious. Again, the reason to evacuate is for their safety, and they should take this extremely serious.
Can you tell us what your plans are here at the EEOC for the next 24 hours?
Well, we're going to be continuing the operation at the emergency center here, and we'll, continue the monitoring and we'll keep everybody updated as to what the status is.
By what time do they have to evacuate?
Evacuation starts now. Hopefully, all of the evacuation will be done, by nightfall sometime. So we're anticipating, hopefully, to have the whole area evacuated by nightfall.
Are police going door to door?
No, police is not going door to door right now. What we're doing is we're starting the evacuation. We have the pickup points as it relates to the transit locations, and we expect people to go out voluntarily and other people on their own and evacuate the area.
Now remember, folks, this evacuation is not voluntary. It is mandatory. You must evacuate. Now, we don't want to scare you, but this very well could be a real life and death situation. Please don't take any chances. Now, where exactly are the evacuation orders for Dade County?
Let's go ahead and take a look at the map here that we have for Dade County and show you what is going on as far as the evacuation setup. Right now, we've been told that only 175,000 people are going to be evacuated from Dade County as of right now. Do we have that map that we can put up to show you what zones are in effect for Dade County?
There it is.
Okay, there it is right now. The red is the Miami Beach area, Key Biscayne. That is mandatory. That is the area we're looking at right now. Also the yellow area also for now as well for the Category 2 and 3 hurricane is what we're looking at. This is as of, what time did we get this? About 8:30, quarter to 9 o'clock this morning. The evacuation plans underway for Dade County. Miami Beach is a mandatory evacuation zone regardless of what size the hurricane is. Also, the others who will be evacuated regardless of where they live are those who live in mobile homes, just like they very well should.
Anybody living in a mobile home, no matter where it is.
Regardless, they will be evacuated.
Right. Well, so we've got 430,000 evacuating in Broward County, 175,000 in Dade County. That's well over 600,000 people.
As of now.
I hope this drives the point home, ladies and gentlemen, that it's coming.
Right. It's been lax for many number of years.
I mean, most of the people, the vast majority of people living in South Florida have never, ever been through a hurricane, have only read about them, seen television pictures of them hitting Charleston, South Carolina, or whatever, and it's the kind of thing that you just think happens to other people. Well, this time it looks like it's going to happen to us. We've got Channel 4's Frank Motek up in Sky 4. He's headed toward the Upper Keys on the evacuation route, and we'll be going to him live just as soon as we can get our microwave link. We've also got Metro Traffic on Hurricane Andrew Traffic Watch, and we'll be checking with Joe Brennan later on in this hour. Let's go to those rumor control lines. You know, lots of you've been hearing this morning. People will tell you of rumors of evacuation. Well, you know now that's no rumor, but other things may come up that are not true. So here's how to find out whether something is true or not. The Andrew rumor control line in Dade County, 596-8735. In Broward County, 357-8454. In Monroe County, the number 1-800-427-8340. And we've got more numbers for you. If you want to call the Channel 4 Help Center, if you want answers from live people to your questions about the hurricane, you can call the Help Center in Dade County at 379-HELP. In Broward, the number is 523-HELP. And if you can't watch television and you don't have a radio and you can't listen to us on Y100 at 100.7 FM, you can call the Channel 4 recorded telephone line, which is in Dade I believe it's 358
8,000.
8,000.
And in
There it
Broward,
is.
731 7000, code 4444. And the latest information on Andrew can be found in there regarding the watch, the warnings, location, anticipated landfalls. We get a little bit more into today and some things going on like that.
Well, water. Water is one of the most important things all of us can do today, right now, to make sure that we'll be safe or safer for the next few days or possibly as long as a week. Here's what you want to look for today in terms of water.
The Atlantic House restaurant before Hurricane Hugo and after. Just one of Charleston's many businesses that was totally destroyed. So here's what you need to do. Find out what your employer's plan is for a hurricane situation. When are you going to be able to tend to your home and family? What are your responsibilities at the business? And how are you going to communicate with your employer if the phones are out, maybe even for weeks?
Every employee of a company has to know what their role is when disaster strikes.
It's especially important for small businesses to get vital records and equipment out of harm's way.
If you lose those billing records or client records, if you lose your computers, if your employees are scattered to the wind, you may be permanently out of business.
Along with no paycheck, there won't be any banks or automatic tellers for at least a while after the storm.
I'd say make sure you have ample cash on hand so that you can shop at those places that are taking cash only.
Well, now we're going to tell you about that important information about water that you need to know. We can get that information on the screen for you now. I hope. Well, let's just talk about it anyway. You should buy water today if you don't already have it, because you're going to need 2 quarts. That's 2 quarts of water per person per day. Now, if you've got empty containers, you can also fill them. Remember, the water you have out of your tap today, perfectly safe to drink. That may well not be the case in the next 24 to 36 hours. But as of today, fill empty containers with water. Also, fill your bathtub and buckets for utility water. Now, you don't want to be drinking the water you put in your tub, but you can use that to flush your toilet and do other things you may use water for. I'm told now that Frank Motek is in Sky 4 over US 1 at Card Sound Road. Let's go now to Frank.
Flying just above Florida City right now, where the Florida Highway Patrol has set up a roadblock here at US 1 and Card Sound Road. These are the 2 roads leading to the Florida Keys. The Florida Highway Patrol is not letting traffic move south unless anyone's got a good reason to go south into the Keys. They're only allowing people to go in right now for emergency reasons. Traffic is moving smoothly and steadily out of the Florida Keys, going northbound on both US 1, which is the road over to your right, and Card Sound Road, which is the one over to your left. As you can see, traffic is rather light right now and moving very smoothly, heading out of the Florida Keys. Now, at that roadblock there with the Florida Highway Patrol, they're stopping all tourists, not letting them go to the Keys this weekend, obviously, because of Hurricane Andrew. They're also only allowing people who have absolutely necessary business down there to secure their homes or secure their boats to go down there at this point. So right now, the Florida Highway Patrol says everything seems to be moving smoothly here right now through the Keys right now as people evacuate the Florida Keys into Monroe County and into Dade County. So no accidents reported right here at this point, and the traffic continues to look very good as people evacuate the Florida Keys. Back to you.
Frank, this is Bob Mayer. Can you hear me?
Just barely, Bob, but go ahead.
Well, we were told hours ago that people in the Keys should begin evacuating voluntarily. It seems that with the smoothness of traffic flow at this hour, that perhaps they are not. Do you see evidence of evacuation or just what looks like normal traffic?
It looks like there's definitely evidence of people evacuating. Boats on trailers heading out. Traffic appears to be heavier than usual, certainly heading northbound. Usually traffic to the Keys on the weekend is usually heavy as people head on down, but certainly we're seeing a lot more traffic heading northbound out of the Keys. You can probably see those trailers right now with the boats on them as people evacuate and clear out. And certainly because of the roadblock, there are hardly anyone's going southbound at this point. So it looks like people are heeding the warnings and clearing out of the Keys and getting out, similar to what we saw back in 1987 when Hurricane Floyd came right up US 1. Luckily, it wasn't too bad, but Last time we saw something like this was in '87 when Floyd came right up US 1. So these people are used to it, I'm sure.
Well, Frank, let me ask you this. We're told by authorities that US 1 leading north out of the Keys will not be able to handle the amount of traffic that is going to develop on that road. You say now they have stopped, for the most part, southbound traffic to the Keys. Does that indicate to you that perhaps they'll turn those southbound lanes into northbound lanes for a more full evacuation?
Very, very likely, Bob. I was told by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and the Florida Highway Patrol that a lot of people did clear out late last night already. So apparently people got the warning early and were able to get out. And I think certainly if the situation calls for it, they would be able to use the southbound lanes and the northbound lanes for the evacuation out of the Keys. So I'm sure that would be an option they might want to use as we get closer. But right now it looks like they're in pretty good shape as far as the traffic situation is concerned. Doesn't look like they need to use the southbound lanes to evacuate northbound traffic at this point anyway.
All right, thank you. And, of course, we'll be checking back with you within this continuing hour also. Now, Joe Brennan of Metro Traffic is standing by with Hurricane Andrew Traffic Watch. Joe, what can you tell us?
Well, we can also tell you we have had a few calls here further down the road. As a matter of fact, on the Overseas Highway northbound, we had travel pretty much bumper to bumper around mile marker 80, Isla Mirada area northbound there. Very slow, 10 to 15 miles per hour through that stretch, so obviously something to look out for. So far, not too rough coming off from Miami Beach, using those evacuation routes, the causeways back over to the mainland. Travel on the light side, it's getting a little heavier, but not a lot of folks apparently leaving, taking heed of the evacuation yet. As a matter of fact, through Dade and Broward counties, we've had our plane up checking things out, and she's saying she's seen more boat traffic than anything out there, and we'll go check out with Melissa right now. Melissa, how's it look?
Well, Joe, like you said, more boat traffic than car traffic right now. Things are actually pretty quiet along Collins Avenue throughout Miami Beach. You do see a lot of lines outside of gas stations, though, and the westbound arteries leaving the areas, the westbound areas of the causeways. Traffic's moving pretty good. A lot of bridges up, though, a lot of boats going through. But again, traffic up to speed throughout Dade and Broward counties as you leave the beaches area across the causeways. I'm Melissa Harmon. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Melissa. As you mentioned, you probably should start leaving those evacuation areas as early as possible. Bob?
I want to remind you that in terms of moving those boats, the bridge lockdown is going to occur at about 12 o'clock. So there is not much time to get those boats moved.
Is that Dade County and Broward County?
Well, that's Broward County lockdown occurs at noon. Okay. I don't have a time for Dade County, but I'm going to guess that it's going to be right around the same time. We don't know that. We don't know that for certain, however, at this point. Let's take a break and go to a list of shelters that are either open or opening very shortly. One of the toughest things that anyone has to do is evacuate their home and face the realization that time has come. And, of course, that time has come for well over 500,000 South Floridians. And one of the toughest things on top of that is having to leave your pet. If you're in an evacuation area where you can go to a friend's home, a good friend, a friend that'll let you take your pet, you're in luck. The evacuation centers, the official centers in Dade and Broward counties will not allow that. There are precautions and get-ready things that you can do to protect your pet while you're gone, but remember, you may not take them to an official evacuation center. It's advised that if you have a dog or a cat or whatever, that you put them in an enclosed interior room of the house and give them enough food and water to last for several days.
One other thing you might want to keep in mind, too, is that even if you're just going to stay with friends, take your own supplies with you. Of course. I mean, even though they said, hey, we're inland and things like that, come on over, they may not have set up to have, say 3 or 4 people come over with them. So if you're on your way to stay with someone else instead of a shelter, take your own supplies with you, your own bedding, your own water, and also your own food and your own personal items, because even though they're letting you in, they may not have anticipated, 4 or 5 extra people in their house, and that could just run things out real quickly in that household. Also, one more thing that Brian Norcross touched on in that taped piece a few minutes ago, hit the ATM. That is very important, to hit the automatic teller machine. If the power goes down, there will be no ATMs, and chances are no bank service, and you could be strapped for cash. As the power starts to come back in and different things open up, you will see the need for cash. The ATM hit it today before the ATMs even run out of money.
The big question is, when this thing plows through here, how long will we in fact be without power? In some areas of Charleston, they were without power for a week, 10 days or longer.
Definitely.
And if that happens, I mean, there's no gas to buy, there's no money to get from your ATM.
That's right.
It's a serious, serious situation, and that's why you need to prepare now. Now, all right, Jim Reynolds from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is on the phone with us now. Jim, good morning.
Good morning.
What is the status of your facility in terms of staying open, in terms of it being in the middle of an evacuation area?
We expect that sometime later on today we will close the airport. At this point, we're not certain of the time. Already, Paradise Island has canceled their entire schedule for the day. One of the things we want to stress is, because of the location of the airport and the proximity to the coastline, we are not a shelter. We've been receiving a lot of calls from people asking if we are a shelter. This is not a safe place to be if a major storm comes ashore. The other thing folks need to be aware of is, if they are meeting an incoming flight or if they're departing the area today, they need to check with the airlines, because the airlines at the moment, as we speak, are evaluating their schedules, and some of them will be canceling flights and their entire operations as the day goes on if this storm continues to head in our direction.
All right, Jim, let's make a distinction here if we can. We heard a short time ago from the folks at Miami International Airport. They point out they are not an official shelter. They don't want people coming there to seek protection from the storm, but that if people are at the airport for flights that have been canceled, they can be moved to interior portions of Miami Airport and, in fact, be safe from the storm, and that they will be allowed to stay there. That is not then the situation at Hollywood Fort Lauderdale.
No, that's not the situation here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International. We plan, if the storm comes ashore with the kind of winds that we're seeing right now, we will evacuate the airport, and perhaps 2 or 3 of our staffers will stay here, but it will be just a skeleton crew here at the airport.
All right. Thank you, Jim Reynolds from Hollywood International Airport. We understand now that an official from Dade County government is about to make a statement regarding the situation in Dade County and the evacuation of an estimated 175,000 people. So let's go live now to that. All right, we do not have a signal yet set up for that, so as we wait for that, we can talk about what Dr. Bob Sheets has been telling us all morning long. This is something that a lot of us thought would never happen.
He was one of the few that did not think it would happen. He knew it would happen. He has been a person to talk about the coastline development that has possibly gotten us into trouble with the major amount of people that live across the U.S. coastline, especially here in Florida alone. We're looking at this situation today. A Category 1 hurricane, Miami Beach has to be evacuated. Where do these people go? We continue to build along the coastline. So we're actually looking for some answers to some questions today and tomorrow as we start to come through Andrew.
All right, well, Dr. Sheets now is ready to talk to us, and he's standing by live now at the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables. Good morning, Dr. Sheets.
Good morning.
Anything new developed since we last talked? The pressure of this thing, we understand, has dropped, and there's a danger of a further intensity.
That's right. We're now approaching that Category 4 strength, and I suspect it already is, and probably in our next advisory. We're just looking at the wind fields right now. So, indeed, the pressure has dropped. The pressure is at the same level that Hugo was when it made landfall in South Carolina.
Bob, Brian Allen here. Did I just hear you correctly? You said that the pressure right now is the same as when Hugo made landfall?
934 millibars, yes. That's the same pressure that Hugo had when it made landfall in South Carolina.
Does that mean we can expect a storm as fierce as Hugo?
In the core region, yes. It's not as large, and so you're not going to have the breadth of the damage that occurred all the way from Charleston to Myrtle Beach. But in the core region, it's just as strong as Hugo was, getting that strength right now.
Dr. Sheets, you just said that you were looking at the wind field so far. Any ideas to what we're going to be looking at as far as the maximum sustained wind when the new advisory comes out?
Well, Gary, what happens is you get up to these strengths, and it sort of goes up and down depending on how the eye wall expands and contracts, and so what cycle you happen to be in. I think once you get into these kind of winds of 130, 135 miles per hour or so, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. If you've done everything for that kind of storm, you've done everything you can possibly do for 150, for instance.
Are we still looking at the same west track, because it has been hovering around 25.5 for quite a few hours now?
Right. No, it's been on that west-southwest track there, primarily west, and it can fluctuate slightly north, slightly south of there. And as you know, Gary, Brian, that's the problem you may have here, where people try to pinpoint exactly where that center is going to go. They need to prepare, assuming the worst kind of condition, because we can't pin it down within 20 miles as to where that center is going to cross our coast.
Okay, let's don't pin it down, but we're still looking at definitely, without a doubt, a South Florida hit.
I think very, very high probability.
All right, Dr. Sheets. Bob, did you have a question for Dr. Sheets?
Flash going back toward the board. That means the dive was slow and short. The judges know it too.
And the scores from Tonley.